None of the examples I've talked about so far say anything about how Dylan sings the second line here. Listen to what happens to his voice when he sings If and You Don't Know By Now.
Well, it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, baby, even you don't know by now.
So he drops down into a lower register and he's doubling the bass note. And this is something, once you fix your ears to it, you can't miss its similarity to this.
The lights in the harbor don't shine for me. I'm like a lost ship adrift on the sea, the sea of heartbreak.
So this is the song Sea of Heartbreak by Don Gibson, another favorite of Dylan's. He performed other Don Gibson songs, indeed played his songs on his radio show a few years ago. Now, the Don Gibson song has its own set of interesting affiliations generically. It's, of course, a country song, and Dylan's love of country music was extremely strong from early in his years in Minnesota, indeed until he was a folk revivalist, even though this was sort of anathema to many of the countercultural types in the folk revival. There's one little lyrical connection I want to point out. I'm not sure if there's anything to it, but this is interesting to me. The lights in the harbor don't shine for me, and then we have one of the more artful verses in Dylan's song, ain't no use in turning on your light, babe, I'm on the dark side of the road. So this might be one place where he's taken and expanded that opening couplet from the Don Gibson song. More pervasive, though, is the influence of the particular chord progression that Don Gibson's song is based on. And so let's hear it again. And there are going to be some Roman numerals that come up here. Don't worry, I'll explain what they mean.
The lights in the harbor don't shine for me.
All right, so musicians use Roman numerals to talk about the chords within a key. Lowercase means it's a minor chord, uppercase means it's a major chord. You don't need to worry much more about what they mean beyond that because you're going to hear this now over and over again. So you're going to get a really good sense of what it sounds like. Now, there's a real clue to the other generic affiliation outside of country that this song has, and it's given by that cheeky bass voice before the second line, bum, 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 that is in fact referring to the genre where this progression reigns supreme, which is doo-wop. Or the Penguins. Now, this obviously sounds to be light years away from Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. And indeed, in terms of the realization of that song in 1962, or 63 it is. But we do know that the young Bob Dylan was an enormous doo-wop fan. In fact, the earliest known recording of Dylan when he was 15 has him singing both of these songs that we just heard, Earth Angel and In the Still of the Night. I should also mention this is one of the only Dylan recordings that doesn't circulate. It exists in exactly one copy, an acetate, and it was most recently listed on eBay for $200,000. So if the university wants to, perhaps we can acquire it. Now, by the late 50s and early 60s, this progression finds its way into a whole host of other popular genres. We heard it in a sort of countrypolitan tune of Don Gibson, but there are many others. Stand By Me is one of the most famous. Or a novelty number like Duke of Earl.
Duke, 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 Duke of Earl, Duke, Duke, Duke of Earl, Duke, Duke, Duke of Earl, Duke, Duke, Duke of Earl.
So you're getting used to this progression by now. You can hear it, I hope. There's also a funny connection to Dylan with this song. If we have time in the Q&A, I can mention it. The #1 song in August 1962, when Dylan was in the midst of writing Don't Think Twice, It's All Right.
Don't take your love away from me. Don't you leave my heart in misery.
And indeed, popular music scholar Walter Everett has done a statistical study that shows that the prevalence of this progression peaks in guess what year? In 1962. And these are the Billboard Top 20 songs. And so one of the tricky things with Dylan at this point is that he's very much associated with a particular musical subculture that is identifying itself largely in part from a kind of opposition to mainstream popular music. And nevertheless, we know that Dylan, when he was younger, and indeed still when he was in Greenwich Village, had his ears wide open to all of this music. And in fact,